going to help!
Stranger Things is undoubtedly a force to reckon with in pop culture history. Now that the final season is out, it's time to celebrate everything that came before with the top 25 moments when Stranger Things broke the internet. Yikes, we're kicking things off with a pretty savage moment. Eleven chooses violence against Angela here, but it's not like she was planning it right from the start. She didn't resort to messing up her bully's face at first, which is very admirable. At least Eleven tried to talk to Angela, but when that gets thrown in your face too, I would have done the same thing. It was a pretty viral moment, and what's crazy is that they first thought of making Eleven smack Angela with a golf club. I think the roller skate did its thing, but Angela doesn't deserve any mercy at all. What she does isn't just bullying, it's public humiliation. All these sociopathic cowards ganged up on one poor girl, filmed it, and even attacked her with a drink.
Wipe out!
This kind of harassment can drive people to do some messed up stuff, so it's criminal in my opinion. And of course, everyone obviously only blames Eleven when she retaliates, not when she's the one getting bullied. Tobey Maguire from 2002 Spider-Man can relate, I bet.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, what are we doing?
You're okay, you're okay.
Jesus Christ, we're already taking things up a notch with this one. Vecna established himself as an S-tier villain pretty quickly, considering he's been inspired straight from A Nightmare on Elm Street. The Freddy Krueger vibes are immaculate, and the overall cinematography totally enhances his first appearance. That kill was brutal to watch, but it also made such an impact on viewers when they immediately started talking about it on social media. Honestly, I feel it's one of the reasons why Stranger Things managed to get its respect back after a weak season 3. Regardless, Vecna is horrifying to watch here, and we also see his character design for the first time in proper form.
Don't cry, Chrissy. It's time for your suffering to end.
Stranger Things has always been looked at as a show which brings back the 80s energy with a few monsters every now and then. However, this time it brought back the iconic feel of 80s horror movies, and I was locked in right from this moment onwards. Okay, at least now we can chill for a bit. It turns out that they weren't lying when they said women really do love bad boys. Don't look at me though, the reference point is Billy Hargrove. Yeah, he's not exactly the ideal man to look up to, but if rizzing older women happens to be your ideal life goal, perhaps you can learn a thing or two from him.
Afternoon, ladies.
Afternoon, Billy.
Dig the new suit, Mrs. Wheeler.
Thank you.
The Hawkins pool scene was super popular on the internet for the very obvious flirting that was going on between Billy and Mrs. Wheeler. Like, they don't have a full-blown conversation, but that brief moment was enough for us to understand all the intrusive thoughts at play. Also, it felt so weird hearing Billy not call the kids some profane names. He just sounds like a strict lifeguard doing his job, and not the biggest jerk ever. I know I mentioned in the previous entry that season 3 was a relative disappointment, but the show is so goated that even a weaker season can still have such viral moments. Ah yes, now this one truly fits the meaning of the word viral. The scene where Max runs away from Vecna with Kate Bush's Running Up the Hill playing in the background will be iconic forever. I mean, there's not a single form of any evil in this world that could beat the power of legendary 80s music. This scene was so popular that people couldn't get enough of it on Netflix or even on YouTube. The crazier part is that the song saw such a massive surge in popularity that it started dominating Spotify charts all over the world even decades after its original release. This is when you know an artist is meant to be remembered forever. But yeah, the tension in this sequence was insane AF, and it was the perfect way to get the audience even more interested in how the gang was going to counter Vecna. The moment is powerful because it's also symbolic of fighting against mental health issues, so I wonder if season 5 will have anything that can match this energy. We spoke about 80s music in the previous entry, so let's talk about the culture as a whole now. As I mentioned in the intro, Stranger Things had a huge hand in making the 80s popular again. Not only did it get people interested in concepts like fashion and lifestyle, the influence extended to the music industry too. After all, the biggest song on Spotify, Blinding Lights, is also a crazy 80s throwback, and the trend majorly worked because Stranger Things had already begun the revival of one of history's best eras. Now, the very first scene gives us major throwbacks in terms of cinematography, background score, and film references too. Also, Will may have been in a typical horror scenario, but he makes smart decisions leading up to his disappearance, which actually makes the evil forces of the show that much more threatening. This is one of the most engaging openings to a show ever. It sets up likable characters, a scary creature, and an interesting mystery that takes an entire season to solve. This is probably why season 1 of Stranger Things, in my opinion, is the best season of the show.
He's back! He's back!
I'm back! You got the job!
You got the job! Yay! Oh.
Next up is the ultimate showcasing of nerd behavior. By that, I mean it's the ultimate handshake that would make anyone want to join Steve and Dustin's squad. Okay, maybe not Robin, because she just looked like she saw something traumatizing.
How many children are you friends with?
Steve and Dustin being friends is one of the most wholesome things about this show, especially once you consider how Steve was set up like a minor villain in season 1. Sure, the guy isn't the toughest man on the planet, but his relationship with Dustin shows a side to him that made him a fan favorite despite his obvious weaknesses. As far as the handshake goes, I don't think I'll ever be able to get it right, despite a few attempts, but that's fine because I feel it's better off being their thing. It's light-hearted moments like this one that allow the audience to settle in nicely, even when there are apocalyptic level events happening everywhere else. In at number 19 is A Deadly Way to Go. It's a pretty dark end for Patrick, and by that, I don't just mean his method of death. The lighting for the scene was intentionally kept to this level, probably to set up Patrick's end as per the typical Vecna vibe. I feel this scene was a bit too aggressive and violent, even for Vecna's standards, but man, it sure did its thing. Perhaps Vecna learned his lesson after toying with Max and letting her escape with the power of Kate Bush. Even so, I would have liked to see a little bit more detailing regarding Patrick's past and traumas. The guy seemed pretty cool, and it was a shame to lose him the way we did. But then again, the Duffer Brothers probably wanted to make sure that we didn't take Vecna lightly after he experienced a mild stumble. The scene also shows us what the main villain is capable of if he decides to get serious.
What are you doing here?
Shopping.
This is her new style. What do you think?
What's wrong with you? You know she's not allowed to be here.
What is she, your little pet? Yeah. Am I your pet?
Next up is not my favourite moment, but it did go viral, so it counts. Man, who would have thought that the kids could be this toxic right from such a young age? I'm not placing the blame on Eleven or Mike, but rather on Max for butting in where she doesn't need to be. Like, come on, Mike's a freaking kid, and you can't expect him to be boyfriend of the year in such a complex relationship. Max may not have had full clarity on Eleven's situation, but her butting in just felt like such a forced moment to put down the guy. It's one of the reasons why season 3 was such a downgrade, but at the same time, Mike's face when Eleven tells him she's dumping him was hilarious AF. It became a meme, and for all the right reasons. You know, I genuinely thought that Eleven might just throw the ice cream in his face, but nah, that expression was definitely a better choice.
I dump your ass.
What should we do?
Call the police.
Oh man, these are back-to-back entries showcasing bad decisions. Eleven isn't a good role model if you consider how easily she gets influenced, or in this case, her tendency to steal Eggo waffles. This is such a blatant robbery that even the store manager was like, how do I deal with this?
Excuse me, young lady. You know you have to pay for those.
Maybe calling her a thief was a bit too extreme though. In all fairness, 11 doesn't exactly have the best grasp on how society functions, despite the very obvious use of powers to stop the dude from catching her. She saw egos and decided to get as many of them as she could. It's what an ideal world would look like, and the absurdity of it all was what made the scene so memorable. Plus, she really stocks up to her best abilities. I can totally see her becoming a villain, but with her only crime being targeting such stores to steal egos. It's really funny actually, because Millie Bobby Brown herself doesn't even like egos at all.
You have to pay for those. Stop right there. Thief! Thief!
I want you to find something from your life. Something that angers you. Now channel it.
Oh man, this one's a surprising choice for sure. I don't know what to say about the story involving Kali, because it was such a pointless arc, although we did get a viral scene from it. 11 is given some direction on how to use her powers, and she manages to rev it up a notch by moving what looked like part of a train. It's not bad at all, considering how heavy such things are, and 11 screams her lungs out upon succeeding had such a raw feel to it.
Dig deeper. Your whole life you've been lied to. Do I have a mother?
She's not around anymore.
Man, they could have done so much with Kali as a character, because if she manages to escape the Hawkins lab, they could have connected her to the show in so many ways. Instead, they chose to make her this leather jacket wearing biker girl who just wants to be edgy because it looks cool. Anyway, I hope she's involved in season 5 somehow, because at least it'll make her appearance make more sense. Stranger Things hasn't held back when it comes to killing off characters unless they're top billing. We found that out when Barbara leaves us with nothing more than a terrified scream. It was unfair to her for sure, because it's not even like she had anything to rejoice about in her final moments.
Nancy! Hello?
She was all alone by the pool, and she was killed without anyone being able to hear her scream. It's a sad, tragic end, but it also made us all realize that these guys aren't messing around. Man, the momentum was crazy during season 1, wasn't it? Now we've got the squad's first proper encounter against this beast known as the Mind Flayer. We know Billy was an extension of it, but here we can see the CGI monster in all of its glory. There's a lot of chaos here, but luckily 11 comes to the party again and reminds us that she's been written with unlimited potential. I mean, the fact that she had the power to tear the Mind Flayer's face in half after everything truly shows how strong she is. This isn't a Demogorgon. This is the big daddy of Demogorgons, and 11 was able to rip it to shreds. Of course, this wasn't the last we'd see of the monster, but still solid stuff overall. Isn't it great to see Steve getting a partial W? Well, the guy is pretty much used as a punching bag throughout the series, even after he becomes a good guy. Here, it's more of a team effort, as Steve, Nancy and Jonathan become a trio and take down the Demogorgon. What makes this amazing is Steve's last-minute entry to save Nancy before she got gobbled up. There's a clear rift, considering Jonathan effectively stole Nancy from Steve, but none of that matters when you have to save lives. I'm just happy the writers chose this path for Steve, because I consider him to be just as important as any other character apart from 11. Alright, in at number 12 is the first time we celebrated the end of a threat. 11 showing up to savagely destroy that Demogorgon was pure Giga Chad energy. If you ever wanted to see a kid with aura, this was the moment. The way 11 casually tosses Mike aside was pure disrespect, but also looked really cool.
11, stop!
It was a neat decision to sync 11's power with the slingshot attack because we were all shocked at first. If such a slingshot existed, its maker would be drowning in cash after this episode. Anyway, I know 11 vanishes after this attack, but the way she took down the monster was cool AF. Plus, we already knew she was going to come back. There was no way Netflix wasn't going to renew such a popular show, right?
Something I've been wanting to talk to you both about. I know this is a difficult conversation, but I care about you both very much.
Oh man, bring the tissues out. This was a letter that made us all cry. Despite the differences between Hopper and 11, there's no denying the fact that he'll always be her father, and blood relations don't matter in such cases.
And when life hurts you, because it will, remember the hurt. The hurt is good.
The contents of his letter was so emotional that the audience just couldn't hold back their tears. Add the fact that people are leaving Hawkins, and 11 doesn't have her powers at this point. Yeah, we were all like, it's not looking good, bruv.
It's not looking good, Bev. It's not looking good.
Yeah, the scene kind of loses some steam once we learn that Hopper is still alive, but those first emotions will always hit hard.
If you don't mind, for the sake of your poor old dad, keep the door open 3 inches.
Kicking off my top 10 is the moment when we felt bad for the bully. As messed up as Billy was as a person, he did have his share of trauma, and this final stand wasn't only about sacrifice, but also about his redemption. Resisting the Mind Flayer was symbolic of Billy finally fighting against his own father, which is probably what made his end more acceptable, at least in his own mind. For a guy who didn't gain any kind of sympathy at first, Billy was able to get us all in our feelings when he gave away his life to protect 11 and the others. It's also a highly dramatised moment, considering how deadly the Mind Flayer looks here. Coming up next is an entry that took us all by surprise. Bob was such a likeable character, and the poor guy didn't do anything to deserve the shock death he was given in the show. Like, we were all given false hope at first, only for it to be shattered seconds later. Man, he should have just kept running after closing those doors. All those smiles really had us all fooled into thinking he was safe, but hey, kudos to the writers for managing to trick the viewers. Also, the Duffer Brothers were actually going to kill him off much earlier, but thanks to how great he turned out to be as a character, they delayed his brutal death to episode 8. Moving a piece of a train was cool and all, but flipping a van in the way 11 does here is on a whole other level. It pretty much proved that she was certified badass material right here. It's not just about having the power to flip such a large vehicle, but rather about the casual manner in which she does it. The whole thing was shot so nicely that it makes us forget these kids were trying to outrun actual cars and vans with bicycles. You know, at first I assumed she'd make them fly over the van, but I can safely say this was a much better decision overall.
Holy shit! Did you see what you did to that van?
No, Dustin. We missed it.
I mean, that was awesome.
It was awesome.
If you ever thought less of Jim Hopper, this scene proves otherwise. He beats a Russian Terminator, which is probably the most badass thing any normal human can do in this show. A man may not have psychic powers, but he does have combat skills and a presence of mind that allowed him to overpower an opponent who is clearly stronger than him. There's evidence throughout the show that suggests Hopper served in the military, so it's possible that he picked up some of his moves from there. Either way, the manner in which he throws the wannabe Arnold Schwarzenegger into the machine was as brutal as things could get. Also, that final line was cold as heck.
I'll see you in hell!
This was some traumatizing stuff for the kids and also for the audience. Now, I'm not sure if 11 was holding back initially, because the way possessed Billy broke free of her telekinetic powers, we all wondered if she could actually beat him. Luckily, she does manage to smash him through the wall, but we as the audience have already understood that the Mind Flayer isn't going to be easy to defeat. What's more terrifying is that Billy is already a pretty scary guy without the possession, so this just made him more of a threat to the kids. Yeah, it's a bit weird that everyone was just standing there and watching while 11 got choked, but at least the bad guy gets beaten in the end, eh? Yeah, this one's the most badass moment from Season 2. We all know that 11 is supposed to be the main character of Stranger Things, but at times we'll get moments like this one where she's reminding us of how overpowered she is. Well, she did train her powers a bit with Carly during her goth phase, so I guess this final display was somewhat coming. This wasn't just about 11 showing off her strength, but also an important moment where she overcomes her past to close the Upside Down and move on with her life. Hopper manages to land enough support too by shooting down whatever monsters came their way. But it goes without saying that 11 stole the show here. Yeah, she totally deserves a whole supply of egos for what she did.
Okay, baby, talk to me. Talk to me, where are you?
In at number 4 is the coolest use of lights in the show. The scene with the Christmas lights was so strangely beautiful to watch, simply because of how the visuals looked. In terms of story progression, the whole thing felt quite absurd, but that didn't matter because the audience was given hope, and they gladly accepted it.
H-E-R-E. Right here.
As I've said before, personally, Season 1 has a special charm because you just don't know what's happening at first, so you're figuring it out with the characters, which makes it much scarier. Like, when I first watched this scene, I had no idea what was going on, but I was still rooting for Joyce. It's all about the emotions, and I think the sequence is amongst the most unique ones they've used for the show.
What should I do? How do I get to you? How do I find you? What should I do?
Chrissy, this is for you.
Alright, it's time for Eddie Munson to show us why he's such a fan favourite despite having such limited screen time. It's the most metal thing anyone could do during such a situation, because who the hell thinks about combating demon bats by luring them towards you? Add the fact that he's in another dimension set against the backdrop of a red lightning storm. Yeah. That should easily have landed him a spot in Metallica, although this rendition of Master of Puppets was pretty much the last song he played in his life. It was great to see a metalhead being treated like a normal human being rather than some violent fool, and it's pretty clear that it made Eddie Munson such a great character. He may not have survived this show, but hey, at least he can fight MCU villains like Galactus now. Oh yeah, this one had so much happening at the same time. There's the squad taking on Vecna turn by turn, with 11 also fighting him in Max's mind. Now, that was pretty cool, but this is merged with Hopper facing off against a freaking Demogorgon all by himself. And he wins. Now, that's what I call peak badass behavior. Of course, he's not the main character, so they don't glorify it as much as they should, but the temporary takedown of Vecna was more than enough to make this such a popular sequence. Most importantly, it's Nancy's rage that tells us a lot about how she feels. As we saw earlier, she's lost Barb, and her town's getting invaded by this dude, so it was the perfect time to show why she's such a boss girl when she has a gun in her hands. Shout out to the highly dramatized version of Running Up That Hill too.
It wasn't supposed to end like this.
At number 1 is the greatest reveal the show could have ever given us. I'm combining the final battle between Eleven and Henry with the crazy reveal that Henry is Vecna, because doing that easily makes this moment have no competition at all, even from the final episode of the same season. It's also 3 for 3 on season 4 entries, but that's just how popular it was. Yeah, it had the typical trope of the hero getting a crazy power-up at the very last second to defeat the villain, but I'll take it because of how epic it was. We also finally get clarity on what happened in the Hawkins lab that started this whole fiasco in the first place. So it was a perfect way to end the first part of season 4. Regarding the fight, I like how Henry had told Eleven to use a sad or angry memory to use her powers, yet she found her full strength with a loving memory of her mother telling her she loved her. Man, this was such a roller coaster of emotions, wasn't it? Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to the TV region, and here's another video that I know you're going to enjoy.
Hey.